So there is no power is not invested in any body. काया, सम्राट का काया में होता था सार्वभौम, सार्वभौमिकता शरीर में समाया हुआ, right? Sovereignty reposed in the body of the king. So somebody wrote a book called The King's Body. Mahatma Gandhi's body. Body is very important for Mahatma Gandhi, right? Why? Because, okay, he wrote an autobiography called My Experiments with the Truth. But he's experimenting with his body, For him, fasting is also that. He's experimenting with his body. So 10 days, Gandhiji will not eat anything except maybe goat's milk. And then he would write also, he would give his lectures also saying, you do this to your body. These days all this dieting and all, protein diet, don't eat carb, don't eat fat, gluten free, you are also experimenting, right? Gandhi is already doing that. So when he's going on a 40-day fast, he's saying it's not just that you go hungry, but you also then, have this kind of deep awareness of what happens inside. To feel your intestines, to sense it. Of course, in India, there is a longer tradition of fakirs and sannyasis and Guru Nanak and like Kabir doing all of this. And yoga is partly coming from that, right? So Ramdev to ऐसा नचाता है ना पेट. But that he is doing more like a physical thing, But there is an entire kind of a thought process, there is an entire philosophy, entire way of living, entire way of life around it, which the great Swami Ramdev does not bring it. We don't even expect to. He's doing enough. So the body is very important, right? Gandhi's politics is body politics. Corporeality, corporeal. So he always would do that. There is a famous picture of Gandhi holding a goat. You must have seen it. Have you seen that picture? Apparently that picture is from London, from the UK. Does Narendra Modi go to the UK and take a picture with a bakri in his hand? Not even गौ माँ को बोलेंगे ऐसा गोदी में. Why is Gandhiji taking the bakri in the godi? Why? Because you see there is something very, you have to think of this. Of course, the practical reason was because he wants his own goat's milk. So he carries his goat from here and he's carrying on with his experiments on his body. So when he is there, he will still not. There's a famous anecdote about what he told the king when the King of England, Emperor, met Gandhi. I think the Emperor said something like, "Oh, you are." Like it's very cold, England is very cold and you are hardly wearing anything. And Gandhi apparently replied, but you are wearing enough for the both of us. Because the emperors, so they drape themselves with so much. Right? So now you think I'm just telling you an anecdote, you are laughing, very nice, but this is where academic literature is. Recent work on Gandhi is all about this. Do you have in your Indian politics course you on Gandhi? What are the readings you are doing on Gandhi?
One reading is by another reading is by Thomas.
I think Pantham, Liar Mehta, but there are a lot of new readings. You guys don't get it. Those are very dated readings. This, for example, this essay by Ajay Skaria. So you should update yourself on Gandhi. So the way power works then is that it's no longer, so in a way, now Gandhi in a different way brings in the body, right? Body becomes very important. His experiments with so fast is okay against the British, but the reason why at his own individual level, why he's doing the fast is also there. So it's not just that, it is not just happening at a symbolic level. It is not just happening at a representational level. Right? Because when you do something and you say, I am protesting against empire or whatever, but it's about what you are doing in your own practice also. So of course then for Gandhi, Swaraj would also be Swaraj over your own bodily tendencies. Are you able to rule over your own body, for example? Or do you give in to your whatever passions or desires that you think are irrational or immoral? Right? So Gandhi is, when he is opposing the British, he is also doing a struggle within himself. Opposing the British, opposing colonialism is part of his own internal struggle. That's why you have the density in Gandhi. So you are going to protest against the British, but that is also part of your Atma Suddhi. Right? ये है ना गांधी में self-purification, he said. Of course, there are a lot of critiques, this, that, leave the critics aside for the moment. That means he's doing something with himself. He's doing something with himself also. He's transforming himself. So the corporeal element is very important there. So in a different way, in Gandhi it comes back, and that's what, right? A lot of people, so even someone who works along the lines of Foucault would then say, okay, there is something in Gandhi. It is not just at a pure symbolic representational level of opposing, only at the level of politics, because politics is also formal space, no, it is not a real space. It is a symbolic space. It's about speech and metaphors and rhetoric. Don't you think so? Right? It's about Basanbaji bolte hai na? Basanbaji. It's also that, largely that. That's why we say it's representative politics. It's not direct democracy. It is a representational. There are so many mediating points, People elect, but the rulers are like, they can do whatever. You don't have control over that. So because it is representational democracy. What is, right? आराम से बैठो तुम लोग थोड़ा. Please lean back. Yes. यस, आप भी लीन करो, लैपटॉप में देखते रहोगे, समझ में नहीं आएगा कुछ भी. You have to understand these things, you know. And please close your books, your copies, please. Please, yeah, इससे कुछ नहीं होगा. Please close your registers. What will you write? What will you write? Just understand, these are more conceptual things. समझने का ट्राई कीजिए. लिख के ये बनिया जैसा वो आज इतना बिक्री हुआ, कितना सेल हुआ, फिर घर में जाके नोट गिनता है वो. ये सब मत कीजिए. ये कॉपीज वगैरह मत लेके आइए, इसको फेंक दीजिए आपको. एग्जाम में के लिए तो बोल रहा हूँ, एग्जाम का टिप्स है. That you should figure out. आपको पता है कौन क्या है. You guys are very clever, I know. So, right? So in a way, in Gandhi it comes back. Now that's why Gandhi is a very interesting figure. That's why I wonder, when the Pune Pact happened, what was the Pune Pact? Bata.
Pune Pact was the debate between Gandhi and Ambedkar. So it was settlement actually.
Agreement was there, but Gandhi threatened Ambedkar basically, right? Fast. You see, fast. What did Gandhi say? He never went fast. He threatened that तुम मेरे साथ एक करोगे तो मैं खुद खुशी कर लूंगा. That's what he said, no? कि तुम मेरे साथ प्यार नहीं करोगे तो मैं खुद खुशी करूंगा. ये बोला गांधी ने. But how will you do the खुद खुशी? Fast on to death. Now I keep wondering, and that's the thing, whether how you understand politics. For Ambedkar, in a way, I mean, we are on the side of Ambedkar on this, I think, but you wonder, why is it that Ambedkar won in that contest? He won, right? Gandhi won. Gandhi won. So I wonder, what could Ambedkar have done to have not get defeated? Emotional appeal. मतलब क्या? What could Ambedkar have done?
So the same thing is
Fast, yes. I always think Ambedkar made a big mistake.
He also said that in his later.
He said that?
In his later period, he said that the Pune Pact was the biggest mistake of him.
Biggest mistake, but did he see that he should have sat on the fast himself? If he does 40 days, you should be able to do 50 days. कंपटीशन चलना चाहिए था कि तुम 40 दिन का धमकी दे रहे हो, मैं 50 दिन करके दिखाऊंगा. That's how Gandhi is winning, right? That's how Gandhi is winning. Because when you bring in the body, you are throwing yourself into the ring. And it feels more authentic. With Gandhi, that is the thing, when you bring in the body, it is not just like an outer thing, it's also an inner thing for him. He is going to suffer and take all the pain and hunger inside of him, and that feels like he's more authentic, he's more genuine than Ambedkar. Because then it is not just an outer representational thing. Can you see this difference? And it's a big thing. You get that moral weight. Yeah, the self-abnegation, that he's willing to, and he's going into tapas, right? Tapas, meaning? Tapas means? Tap. Please sit down. Sit down. No, please sit down. No. Sit down. Don't you guys think the notes से वो चाहिए तुम लोगों को? नहीं तो नहीं. कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट चला रहे क्या? So think about this, right? So it's not the representational thing, because in politics mostly, or even in political science, we think in terms of representation, which is again a mediated thing. It has to be, that presence, that what in Foucault then becomes space, right? The spatial determination. The thing about the space, about the physicality of it. That's where you will go to quarantine, which is the actual street by street manning of the roads and the physicality of it. That's the thing you see in Foucault, right? The physicality of it. The way Gandhi enters the body and his intestines and his sensory kind of bodily sensory experience, you can say the same way Foucault takes you to the little nooks and crannies, the roads and streets of the body of the neighborhood. At that level, that's why there is a physics of power for Foucault. Physics, so then he talks about the physics of power. Otherwise, you would have just the poetics of power, for example, right? It's the physics of power. That's why the soul is not trapped in the body, but the body is trapped in the soul. The body, that's right? Because even for Gandhi, body has a lot of potentiality. You got to work at the level of the body itself. Body is not just something which you do not do anything with. Body is a thing in politics. It is not a enclosed, self-enclosed thing which you put away. You put your clothes, and then you go and just speak at the representational, symbolic level of politics. No, he throws his body in it. He says, I'm now, Chauri Chaura happened, now to rest, and because of Chauri Chaura killings and all of that, there is a moral imbalance. And in order to restore the balance, I have to go through the suffering. My body, I have to actually suffer. Like physically suffer, go through that tapas, that self-purification, and then maybe the moral imbalance that came about with Chauri Chaura, that will be restored. Now that doesn't mean Gandhi is already doing what Foucault is saying, no. And of course Gandhi is earlier than Foucault, as you know. But in the making of certain categories in today's social science, social theory, Gandhi is a major reference point. So then you can say a little bit like Martin Luther King, who also got influenced by Gandhi, right? Partly because even there, that is there, right? The question of suffering. So suffering then, to the extent that it has that corporeal dimension, becomes very important. But then on the other hand, you are looking at a modality of power, a form of power, which, as I said earlier, is no longer vested in the body of the king or in the body of the prime minister. The prime minister is not important. The post is important, so it's not vested in the body. So the empty place of power, that's what people say, right? In democracy, what is power? The empty place of power. This power works by being in a place which is empty. The prime minister's seat is always empty, because whoever is sitting is the temporary occupant of that. But the interesting thing there is that even though there is this physicality, even though there is this spatiality, even though there is this actual roads of the neighborhood in the quarantine, the actual coming of food that Foucault talks about there, right? Or in the case of the confinement model, which is of the lepers in the leper colony, it's actual confinement and being shoved into one place, right? Whereas in the quarantine there is this individualized partitioning. In spite of entire this emphasis on physical space and the flow of actual materials and goods, in spite of that, suddenly the perspective will change in Foucault, and he will say no, but this model of power, which is the new kind of disciplinary power which is going to come, is actually very light, and continuous and almost like spiritual. The work of mind on mind. You have this again? Right? Find out where he says about that. Mind over mind. He talks about that. That's how he understands disciplinary modern power. The work of mind over mind. Then you would think, on the one hand, the same guy who focuses on the corporeal, on the body, on the physicality, on the spatial space, physical arrangements, suddenly says that okay, the panopticon model is really about the work of mind on mind. So the guy in the watchtower inside the panopticon, he of course supposed to be keeping an eye on all the inmates of the panopticon, of that building, of that prison. But even when the supervisor is not watching, not looking at them, at the inmates imagine on their own as though they are being looked at. So you can as well not have the supervisor there. You can as well not have the guy watching. It's a very light model, And you got to spend very little resources. You don't have to employ this guy. You said we don't need it now. It is kind of like embedded in the architecture now. Even when nobody is watching, you act as though you are being watched. Light model and continuous. This is not a moment when you are not being watched. Now that is almost like spiritual. That's a movement of spirit. No, spirit moves like that. You can't block it. Even when you have blocked it, it's still working on you. That's spirit. That's mind. And that's what you see, right? The panopticon model. And that's the thing, I think, the chapter, when you go from that initial part to the section in that chapter on panopticon, I think there's a kind of shift. It feels like, but that's the thing, that the body, the physicality, the spatiality, space, spatial as in space, it kind of, then you go up, it's like the level shifts. Suddenly now it feels like somebody is watching from above. Earlier in the quarantine model and all, when you were talking, right, it was like on the level of the street, actual guys manning it, the supervisor, the police blocking the roads and like checking you're wearing a mask or not. Now suddenly the view has gone up, it's like But it has gone up, but it is not really gone up, because those there they themselves, the involved individuals and humans, they themselves imagine that there is that other view from above. So it is something which you yourself imagine that. So there is a perspective from the top, there is some kind of transcendence, you can say, but there is none. Right? There is and there is not. Because you do not actually need that. It's just putting the thing in place. It's like, saying ना किसी के अंदर में बट डर घुसा दिया ना तो डरा ही रहेगा वो हमसे. It is now self-generated, right? It is immanent. Immanence. It's a philosophy of immanence. Not transcendence, but immanence. 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 Philosophy of immanence. So it's very light, it's very efficient. No huge locks needed. Like here, I think this class is you can say is a panoptical model, There is no physical this thing that you must come. You can leave. You can stay. Nobody's coming and checking. Nobody's coming and checking if the teacher is even coming. The head of the department does not come and check. And yet, why does the teacher come? Right?
So one doubt I have.
Yeah.
So when we are talking about the panoptical model, we say when we are talking about power relations and things. So how can we define the authority of power? That where does it lie? And if we say that it has a capillary function, it's free flowing, then can it be exploited by those who are naturally more talented or naturally they have
Authority of power. It is about.
Is it kind of the terms of agent and subject, or is it relational?
There is the notion of authority does not apply in this modality of power, right? Because authority is derived from someone's age or someone's intelligence, so you gain that authority. That's still very subjective, individualized. That is a power which is not something emanating from the architecture or from the space, from the space, right? That is again going back to the traditional notion of power in political science. So it is about really. So it's not about anybody's authority, right? That somebody has an authority, is an authority on political science.
Where does the power lie?
That's the thing we are saying. The power lies from this only. This is the power. This is the. It doesn't lie anywhere. It doesn't lie anywhere.
It doesn't lie anywhere. Is it like in the whole mechanism as such?
Yeah.
And sir, panoptical.
Shh, don't talk to each other. Oi.
So, like in the panoptical as a model, he has talked about that it produces homogeneous effects of power. But but isn't that a bit conflictual? Because again we do have our differences.
Produces homogeneous effects of power. निकालो कहाँ पे है बताओ मुझे पेज नंबर. निकालो भाई सब लोग.
Second paragraph I can say, yeah. In the middle of it. The panoptical is a marvelous machine which whatever use one
रुक जाओ.
Yes, sir.
जल्दी क्यों करते हो? 202. जल्दी करोगे बस कुछ नहीं होगा. एग्जाम में भी फेल करोगे, सीखोगे भी कुछ नहीं. Go, so, do. Don't worry, don't worry. Where is it? 202. Okay. So, second para. Okay, वहाँ से पढ़ते हैं. This one, you read it. Yeah. No, in front of you. Yeah, tell her, no? Yeah, in front of you. Yeah. Yes. Do you have the text? Do you have the text? Yeah, so read 202, page 202. Second paragraph. Okay, maybe she doesn't have it. You have it? Yeah, read it from the second paragraph. Yeah, can you stand and read it? Yeah, loudly. Yeah, na para? This is the para? Yeah, please read, yeah. You see, that's the thing. Power has this principle not so much in a person or in authority or because you are elected, you know, or because you are elected, but in a certain concerted distribution of bodies. Yeah, carry on, carry on. Chalo, you read it. Piche mein, yeah, you. She's having problems. Yeah, you. Yeah. वो नहीं you, ये लड़की को बोल रहा हूँ. In an arrangement whose in an arrangement again, you see that word arrangement, right? And what kind of internal mechanism? The arrangement of the internal mechanism itself produce. These are specific words. When you are writing your answers, you should learn this. You have to have a new vocabulary. You have to change your vocabulary to be able to answer a question on Foucault. So Foucault padenge cursor nahi hoga. You have to see that there is the same word is used in a different way. As I told you earlier, there is no cause and effect in Foucault. There is no cause and effect. You might even say, oh my God, this is so unscientific. Yes, it is unscientific. Foucault is unscientific. Yes, Foucault is unscientific. Keep this in mind, you know. So in the arrangement, the internal mechanisms produce the relation. And what do the internal mechanisms produce? The relation. Just the relation, relationality. Like you guys all seated, the relation between each other. You can't see, no? I can see this specky fellow and this guy here. Right? But you have to think of the relationality between the two, the in-between. Right? The in-between you have to. People who maybe do too much spirituality, maybe they can understand this point better. Really, because after all it's a work of mind, you know, you should get Sadhguru to explain what is Foucault basically. Sadhguru ka suno. Okay, so arrangement whose internal mechanisms produce the relation in which individuals are caught up. Yeah. Carry on. Yeah?
The ceremony rituals, the marks by which the Soviet surplus power was administered are different. There is
Sorry, what is this surplus power? What is surplus power here? Huh? Balance. Oh, they are useless. They are useless. What is useless? Surplus power. Surplus power is useless. This is an excellent point, you see. No surplus power. That means no ceremonies, no rituals. Because in normally there is a lot of rituals, no? Prime Minister is taking oath. What a ritual! Stupid ritual. Oath taking ceremony. Ceremony? Oath taking ceremony. Rituals. Speaker करते parliament. Speaker of the house. Altuka rituals. So much ritual. You know, of course that ritual is the one which makes you aware that there is a state, there is India, this that ritual. So Pandit ji comes with a Quran or something. और वो पूजा कराते हैं अमर ओम रिचुअल ओके नाउ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का भी तो रिचुअल है किताब है वो भी वहां से पढ़ते हैं अच्छा ऐसा होने से ऐसा करना पड़ता है ऐसा होने से ऐसा रिचुअल है क्यों करना करेंगे वे नहीं करेंगे जाओ why should the constitution be so there is a critique of that kind of power in Foucault, right? So you guys are very good at maybe critiquing religion and tradition and rituals. But what about the modern secular constitutional ritual? So in Foucault you have a critique of the liberal political apparatus also. These days you say okay right wing का हमला है हिंदुत्व आ रहा है हिंदू राष्ट्र बना है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को संविधान को प्रोटेक्ट करना है but in Foucault you are saying इस संविधान को भी हटाओ okay right so no ceremonies because those are all about surplus power because the actual power is not coming from the elected prime minister it is not really vested but it is coming from the way the internal mechanism is produced from the special arrangement so what anti-electoral process and the making of the prime minister and apparently he has all the power that is actually not what is going on that is just the empty show of surplus power right so that's what Foucault is there's a critique of political theory here what Foucault is doing is critiquing political theory he's saying political theory has got it wrong instead talk about the machine like the way the fan is generating the wind you know it is generating from within the internal mechanism of the fan producing the relation between the blades and of course in which the blades are caught up and hence the wind is generated as an immanent thing as from within that it's not like where is the wind coming from? There must be some source, some authority. No, that's not a Foucauldian thinking. There should be some source. No, there is no source. It is generated like a machine. That's a power generator. So, this entire trappings of constitution, president, prime minister, elections, it's just useless. It is trapping. It's just a show. But that's not where power lies. That's why the ceremonies, the rituals, the marks by which the sovereign's surplus power. So in the case of the king, it is the body and the crown and the throne and all of that. But even in liberal political system, you have all this other, what is the elections and the constitution and the judiciary, what Foucault elsewhere calls the juridico-political, the juridical-political this thing. In that video that I have sent you guys, I use that word, but I think it's not clear in the video. I call it the junjunu. Junjunu hota hai na sir? Right? बच्चे खेलते हैं झुंझुनू. So I call it the झुंझुनू conception of power. बच्चों को बुलाने के लिए ऐसा नहीं करते झुंझुनू. There's a झुंझुनू conception of power. Is there in political theory, and Foucault is rejecting that and telling you, come, let's see where power is actually generated and not get deceived. So there is a machinery that assures dissymmetry, disequilibrium, difference. Consequently, it doesn't matter who exercises power. Any individual taken almost at random can operate the machine. Whether it's Manmohan Singh or Modi, they will operate the machine anyways. In the absence of the director, his family, his friends, his visitors, even his servants. Similarly, it does not matter what motive animates him. Even that is not important. Okay, this prime minister is maybe Hindutva minded, earlier one was secular minded, that doesn't matter. That's not important. You see, Foucault is making very radical statements, so you should really understand what is going on here. So study it properly. Doesn't make sense for me to go on and on, because you have very good minds and you will equally understand. There were some hands which had gone up, so let's quickly hear them. Let's start with you. थोड़ा जोर से. Please, just finish it. Yeah. Laboratory, yeah, it's like a lab. So panopticon, you don't have to be within that building. It is just a lab. This is a lab. This is a panopticon. Where you are living, this is panopticon. So Foucault does not mean only within panopticon this happens. He is taking the panopticon as an example and saying that this is how we are living. We are all living under the panopticon, inside the panopticon. We all. You had something to say. बताओ. Anybody else? Anything? Yeah.
Sir, do you think that all these ceremonies, which excessive power is necessary, because power in a society can be derived from plus being obedience. If there is no obedience in the system, that means that is not a legitimate power. That is a tyranny. So these ceremonies ensure that there is
No. Obedience means, there is some authority, someone commanding, and then you are obedient. Here there is no such authority at all. So the question of obedience does not arise. देखिए इसको थोड़ा समझिए. Obedience का तो सवाल ही नहीं है. हम उसका बात मानेंगे नहीं मानेंगे, obedience रहेंगे नहीं रहेंगे, तो बात ही नहीं है. क्योंकि पावर कैसे आ रहा है? पावर कहाँ है? पावर प्राइम मिनिस्टर के पास नहीं है. अगर प्राइम मिनिस्टर के पास होता, एक अथॉरिटी के पास, आईएएस ऑफिसर के पास होता, तो ओबीडियंस का बात आता. या राजा के पास होता, देयर इज ओके, आर यू बीइंग ओबीडिएंट और नॉट. Power is the effect of a particular arrangement of those internal mechanisms. Right? So there is no power. It's not vested anywhere. It is not vested in anyone's body. It's not vested in any of the rituals and ceremonies. It's not in the constitution. Where does the power of the prime minister come from? Constitution, right? But if I regard the constitution itself as a fiction, as a legal fiction, then I will say yes, that is true. Prime Minister's power comes from the Constitution, but both the Prime Minister and the Constitution, this is just a outer show of a functioning of power whose real mechanism is elsewhere and not in the Constitution. It is like if you look at Shahrukh Khan's bouncer, yeah, Shahrukh Khan का bouncer था ना? शाहरुख खान नहीं, ये सलमान का शेरा. अब शेरा को देखिए, अगर कोई सोचेगा कि यही सलमान खान है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन प्राइम मिनिस्टर शेरा है, असल चीज सलमान खान है. फुको बोल रहे हो, ये पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी क्या है ना, ये शेरा को सलमान खान समझा है. और सलमान खान इसको दिखता ही नहीं है. सलमान खान इसको दिखता ही नहीं है, और दिखाते हैं तो बोलता है अनसाइंटिफिक थॉट. मैकेनिज्म जो किसी पे वेस्टेड नहीं है, किसी के शरीर पे कोई सेरेमनी में. जैसे पंडित जी का पावर क्या है, यज्ञ से आता है, दिखता है ना, रिचुअल कराता है वो, आप नहीं करा पाओगे, पंडित जी कराएंगे. तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन लिबरल पावर का भी रिचुअल्स है. इलेक्शन क्या है, रिचुअल है, सेरेमनी है. असल पावर उससे आता है? नहीं आता. आपको भी पता है, मुझे भी पता है ना? नहीं आता. लेकिन आप रिचुअल में पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं ना. ये हवन करके बारिश नहीं होने वाला है, फिर भी हवन करते हैं. हवन वाला शादी करने से शादी पक्का रहेगा, कभी नहीं टूटेगा, ऐसा भी नहीं है, फिर भी आप हवन करते हैं, रिचुअल करते हैं, सेरेमनी. लेकिन वहां नहीं हुआ यार सब. शादी टूटेगा कि नहीं, वो हवन किया कि नहीं, उससे नहीं होता है. लेकिन पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी बोलता है हाँ उसी से होता है भाई. ये रॉल्स, ये अमर्त्य सेन, ये जितना भी आपका है सब, बेंजामिन कांस्टेंट, इसाया बर्लिन, जितने भी ये पॉलिटिकल थियरिस्ट है, सब चोर इधर भागा है, बोला इधर भागा है, तो मिसलीड कर रहा है. दैट्स व्हाट फुको इज, राइट. सो ओबीडियंस नहीं आएगा, और कुछ ऑथोरिटी नहीं है ना उसमें. डिसोबीडियंस तो आप किसी कमांड, कोई रूल, कोई लॉ, कोई इंसान जो इम्पोज कर रहा है उसके साथ आप डिसोबीडियंस कर सकते हैं ना. अब जैसे उदाहरण के तौर पे इन मार्क्स देयर इज समथिंग लाइक दैट. मार्क्स आल्सो सेज लुक, द पॉलिटिकल डोमेन is not the real domain. Marx also is saying that. So there is some similarity between Foucault and Marx, because this is class power is the real thing. So Modi ji has a lot of power, but actually his power comes from the capitalist class, whose leadership is doing. So it's not coming from the elections and all. It is coming from the particular kind of capitalist relations that is there in society, because of which it generates a system called the parliamentary democracy, which is used to kind of so-called get legitimacy from the people themselves through elections. But that is just a kind of farcical, you might say, because the real scene is in the capitalist relations. So you already have this in a different form. That methodological, that way of thinking is already there in Marx. So Foucault is of course carrying that forward. Even though there is a lot of difference from Marx, as I told you, in Marx is talking about annihilation of space by time. बताया था? Whereas in Foucault there is more emphasis on the space itself, on the spatial itself, right? And it's from within that the power is produced, from within those internal mechanisms of space, of those arrangements. लास्ट क्यों बोलते रहो, सब बैठेंगे आज कह रहे हैं लोग. हाँ
Okay, sir, I agree that all the ceremonial power is not a true power. But why Foucault is saying that these powers are not useful? Because if these powers are not useful, I mean that these ceremonial powers help us to make better understand the system. Because if there is no all this ceremonial
he's saying useless, of course he means it is useless from his perspective. Otherwise it is very effective. You all run after becoming ministers, mantri ka post de do. So when he's saying useless, useless in understanding the real mechanism of power. That's what he's saying. He's not saying कि ये है ही नहीं, क्यों नहीं, सब तो इसी के पीछे भाग रहा है, तो of course, वो of course है. Something can be useless but very real, no? Useless from his perspective. Yeah. Bolo? Yeah, where will a feminist be situated in this paradigm?
Because they also argue that there's an arrangement, societal arrangements, patriarchal structure which being abstracted man, which is created upon woman, but the same woman has still visualized in the structure. And the power is derived from there.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you say? Batao? How would a feminist relate to this? Yeah, but there are also feminists who are Foucaultian feminists, right? Who use this perspective. So it's not like from feminist perspective you have to like, they are Foucaultian. Like, in fact, feminism is inspired by Foucault a lot. Okay, the other thing, when you go online, you will see Foucault is a postmodernist. Don't believe all of that. Don't write those kind of nonsense in the papers. Postmodernist, this, that, don't. Just focus on the text. You have to write only from this discussion that we are having. No, it was postmodernist, this, that. Online में आपको कुछ नहीं मिलेगा. Online में जो मिलेगा वो ऊपर का चीज है. They will also tell you it's about the normal and the abnormal, right?
But it is mentioned in the text as well. Branding.
Yeah, stick to the text, because you will see in those popular kind of, interpretations of Foucault. People, they don't understand Foucault really, because, and a lot of all these now, all kinds of things are on the online, premium. वैसे भी फ्री का चीज सामान अच्छा नहीं होता है. फ्री का खाना ना बाद में पेट गुड़गुड़ करता है. फ्री का खाना. So be careful, okay? So don't go by all of that, because just by saying he's a postmodernist, what does it mean? Then you're just using another term to explain one figure. You explain another term, and then what is postmodernist? Then you will again say postmodernism is something post-modernism. You don't understand anything from that. Right? So here you go into this, all the things, the quarantine, this, that, the actual coronavirus for a lockdown, you can use that, to understand this. And so in a way, say during the coronavirus lockdown, the workers coming out, violating the lockdown, that is a very Foucaultian moment, right? Because they did not come and oppose the Prime Minister, they did not come and oppose they did not come to Jantar Mantar and protest. When you do the Jantar Mantar kind of protest, then again that's not the Foucaultian. That's like you are doing the opposition at that representational level of liberal politics. But they just started marching towards the villages. And people didn't know what is going on, because if there is a protest in one side and they have some leaders giving bhasan, you can immediately control that, no? You will catch the leaders and say you go home, it's over, There it was like they're coming from all corners and you don't know from which narrow streets they're coming out of those waters. Nobody saw it coming. And it was not in one spot, right? From all over Delhi. That is the very Foucauldian, that space, no? There's no leader. If they have one leader, then you catch the leader, you control the entire crowd. No, there's no leader. It's very important. There is no one prime minister. Power is produced from the way the entire society is arranged. Keep that in mind, and I think after me, Deepika ma'am will teach you a couple of classes. What this part is, we let it sit at this, and so please read the text again. I have clarified a lot of points here, which I know you will have. You will still think of Foucault in those older terms. Don't do that.
Sir, is there any conception of deep state in the world?
Don't go there.
So because, like when we argue that power comes from the constitution, and who argue that constitution as a legal fiction, so he argues that power emanates from the internal mechanism. So, and when he says
Yeah, the internal is not internal as in this. The spatial arrangement. Internal doesn't mean deep state. Internal doesn't mean you have to go inside a cave and see, oh, internal क्या है, निकालो तो खींच के देखते हैं, वो नहीं. Internal means internal because there is so much of this political theory, which is always at the representational abstract level, and that's why what Foucault is saying becomes internal. So it is internal because of political theory. Otherwise, it is actually the real lived, the internal as in the real lived relation. ये क्या एक के बाद धीरे धीरे आता है इस क्लास में क्वेश्चंस. और बाकी बताओ इधर, एक आध उठा इधर. How much time do we have? 15 minutes. Any others here? Huh? No. There's no time. Otherwise, Althusser is another very dense thinker. So, Foucault kind of builds on Althusser. Foucault is Althusser's student. Yeah, bolo. Say again? Can you repeat the question? Yeah, the state is not like, he never says in modern capitalist society or in late modernity power can exist without the state, because it does feel like he's going to say that now, anytime. That's what you do, right? That's the sense you get. But rather, state is state which has rituals, ceremonies, state which also mobilizes authority, like the idea of India. When you say the idea of India and India's rationale of India as against, say, Pakistan, is that India is secular and democratic, and India makes a big deal out of it, right? That, oh, we are secular and democratic. So that's where you derive your moral legitimacy and your authority, right? So, of course, all these things are there. The state is also there. The state is real. What Foucault would say is that it is an effect of this spatial arrangement. It is one nodal point at most. It's the effect of that, it's an effect of it's like, okay, when you see a river, वो नदी में छोटा सा घुड़नी होता है, little, what is it called? Whirlpools, little, something like that. It is completely dependent on the movement of the water around it. Whirlpool does not have a separate existence. जो घुड़नी होता है ना पानी में, This little, it is completely dependent on the water. You can't, the state does not have a separate existence. Right? It is, or like you throw a stone in the water and then ripples are there. The ripples do not have an existence of their own. You can't say, oh, just take out one ripple outside. No, you can't. It's like part of that entire layout. So state is one such ripple maybe. State is just that पानी में जो गुड्डी होता है, the little whirlpool. It doesn't have a separate existence. It's completely dependent on the movement of the rest of the water around it. It's an effect of the, so it's not like there's no cause and effect, by the way. I'm saying there's effect, but I'm not saying, oh, this came and caused this. Because then the cause ends and then the effect happens, no? Then again it will have a separate independent existence. The state will have a separate independent existence. The whirlpool will have a separate independent existence. But it does not. Because it is just the effect of an effect. Effect of an effect. So hence my answer to this very proper right question, which was what about the state then? Does Foucault say the state does not exist? It of course exists, but it exists in this sense. It is some kind of a mediating, it's a vanishing mediator. I think Foucault is like somewhere uses this term, vanishing mediator, It's a mediator which vanishes. Like you're looking for a house, आपको मकान आप ढूंढ रहे हैं रेंट में रहने के लिए, वो बीच में ब्रोकर है ना, ब्रोकर। जैसे आपको मकान मिल जाता है, आप मकान में आप चढ़ गए, आप रहने लगे, उसको कमीशन दे दिया ब्रोकर को, उसके बाद वो ब्रोकर का कोई मतलब नहीं है ना, वो मकान मालिक और आप, बस वो जो बीच का जो ब्रोकर है ना, वही है स्टेट। वो फिर वैनिशिंग मीडिएटर है, वो उतना ही औकात है स्टेट। I mean, the traditional political science notion of the state has just that much status in Foucault's theory, and that is the critique of the political science conception of power and politics in Foucault. So please read properly and think about these things. And the YouTube links I sent you, please listen to them carefully. Have you all got those YouTube links? Please listen to it carefully. Don't do too much things on the net and don't read some other introductory thing on Foucault. Just understand him from inside, from within his text. Those who are writing in Hindi have been explaining so much. So I hope the ideas are very clear. अगर आप हिंदी में भी लिखेंगे तो आप इन सब आइडियाज को ही लेना है, बस उसको अपने लैंग्वेज में लिखिए। फूको पे ऑलरेडी कुछ मटेरियल्स है भी, आई थिंक निवेदिता मेनन का वो एक ऐसे है पावर करके, वो शायद राजीव भार्गव अशोक आचार्य वाला उसमें भी है, वो थोड़ा बहुत देख लीजिए, बहुत ज़्यादा उसमें भी मत जाइए। एक आध दूसरा देख सकते हैं, मैं नहीं कहूँगा कि बिल्कुल मत देखिए, लेकिन बहुत ज़्यादा उस पर भरोसा मत कीजिए। जो हमने समझाया क्लास में, जो वो YouTube में है, इससे आप जाइए, एंड बेस्ड ऑन दैट यू प्रिपेयर। ओके, थैंक यू।